let's learn how sugar is made. So the first step is you have to pick the sugar cane or the beets. So let's start with sugar cane. Some beautiful looking sugar cane here. It has to be picked first, obviously, and then it needs to be cleaned and juiced. So let me just draw lovely sugar cane here. And we're also going to do a quick beet, something like that. And some leaves. So this is before it gets to the factory. It is picked out in the field, right? So the sugar either comes from sugarcane or the sugar beets. In Australia, it comes from sugarcane, and in America, over 55% comes from sugar beets. So the first stage is you have to obviously pick it, but then you have to clean it, press, or juice. So the sugar cane or the sugar beets is then a glass of juice here. And then the second stage is clarifying the juice or purifying the juice. So clarifying the juice, it's removing impurities. So during this stage, limestone or slaked lime is used in the processing. And this is something that some people are scared of. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what that is. But so calcium, it's called calcium hydroxide. It is something you don't need to be afraid of. So calcium hydroxide has actually been used in tortilla making by the ancient Mexicans for over 3,000 years. And they actually class it as a benefit, as a digestive aid. That's why they would add it to tortillas. And it's still actually added to, it fortifies a lot of food ingredients today as well, like cereals, even juices, and things like that. So it's definitely not scary, and none of it even ends up in the end product. But when they're making the tortillas, they want it to be in the end product. So you can see this is definitely not scary. And I'm going to draw some very strange looking tortilla here. I don't know. Kind of half looks like a tortilla, right? And you've got a little bit of salad coming out here. Bit of salad. You all know what a tortilla is, right? You all know. And yeah, so this one is definitely not scary. And like I said, none of it ends up in the end result. So in addition to limestone, they also use carbon dioxide. And so carbon dioxide is just what you breathe out. So that's not anything to be concerned about. And they bubble that through the mixture with the limestone, the slaked lime. I'll try and draw a lovely head now. Oh dear. Get a little face there. Breathing out that CO2. So you can see that's not a terrible thing. And another food grade ingredient they use in the processing is phosphoric acid. And I know that sounds super scary too. And I wouldn't recommend, you drink loads of the stuff, but phosphoric acid is actually found in soft drinks. So there's people who are ingesting a lot of phosphoric acid. So you can see, this is not even in the end product of the sugar. It's just in the processing of it. So there's absolutely no problem at all there. Time to draw a little soda can. I don't know if this is going to work out too well at all. Oh God. Oy, 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 oy. But you get what I mean, right? Soda. Okay, so the carbon dioxide, phosphoric acid, you've got the limestone, they're mixed together, bubbled through with the juice to help remove impurities. And the next stage we have filtering the juice. And a lot of people are interested in this stage because it can involve bone char. And I'm going to explain more about that. Okay, number 3, we have filter juice. So the filtering of the juice can involve firstly a carbon filter, and it's basically just like your water filter. Okay, there's no problem, they change regularly, it doesn't end up in the sugar itself. So we've got a carbon filter. So I'll attempt to draw a little bit of a filter here. I don't think it's going to work out too well, but I think most of you understand what I mean when I say like a water filter. You know, those Brita kind of filters that have that like filter in the middle there. That looks quite funny. That looks quite funny, but I think you get what I mean. Or it can be bone char in some cases, and it is being phased out, but there are some cases, it's not at all in Australia because it just isn't. We phase it out because it's ridiculous, and you know, why do that when you can do carbon filters? But some places in the USA, for instance, maybe in Europe as well, I'm not 100% sure, still can use bone char. So bone char. Which is just weird when you think about it. It is very strange, but you need to understand that nothing, no bones, no animal bones is actually ending up in the final product, the final sugar. It's completely free of that. But if you want to avoid it, you can buy organic sugar, and it's not ever used in beet sugar. You know, we have the beet over here. It's not ever used in beet sugar. And that is the main sugar used in the USA, over 55% of sugars. And again, most importantly, not in the final product, sugar. Okay, so just remember that and let people know if they're not aware of these facts. So we're going to move way over here to number 4, and this is the evaporation stage. This is when they're thickening up the sugar, the syrup, and getting rid of the water, basically. Like you do when you're at home, when you're making a sauce or something over the stove in a saucepan. And you're thickening it up. So low temp is used here with vacuum sealed boiling. So it actually lowers the boiling temperature, which is great because you're not getting those melanoidins, you know, formed, or the like caramelization like you would with those open vats, you know, the coconut sugar, for instance, where the temperature is out of control. So it's actually really controlled in this process. So the boiling point is much lower, which is great. So low temp vacuum boil, and I will attempt to draw something like that. Right, blue is going to signify a lower temp. This is the heat coming off, and you have the solution, and like I said, this is reducing the water, reducing the liquid, so it thickens up. And the next process is very interesting. I'm quite fascinated by this, where they actually grow sugar crystals. They grow new sugar crystals, they're seeding it, they're like planting a seed, but it's a sugar crystal, and out of that sugar crystal, more sugar crystals are growing, which is really so cool. Very, very cool. So grow sun crystals. Go. Oh gosh, it's not the easiest thing to do, but yeah, what they do is they put the seeds, basically the sugar crystals in there, and the sugar will start growing. There's a whole lot of sugar crystals, new sugar crystals forming, which, like I said, is just so cool. It is just so cool. And we can draw some little crystals going in there. Beautiful sucrose. So seed sugar, or add those crystals, and then new crystals will form. How cool is that, really? All right, so we move on to one of the last stages, and we don't have a lot of room here, so hopefully I can fit it all. The last thing we have is, we call it number 6 here, spin in the centrifuge. spin, dry, package. So in this stage, the centrifuge actually spins off the sugar crystals, leaving the molasses. Okay, so those dense sugar particles, they actually spin off. So the centrifuge spins off the sugar, separates the molasses, and then we have the sun crystals are dried with a fan because there is a little bit more moisture left on them. And we're nearly done. There's the little sugar crystals. Sugar crystals are dried and then they're packaged. Oh my gosh, and we're done. So this is the last stage, is the packaging. And then you get to feed your face with the lovely sun crystals. 99.9% pure, one of the purest food ingredients on earth that you can purchase. We are so lucky that we have this available to us. We should be very grateful. Processing is only making it better. The refining process is actually making a cleaner product. So don't be afraid of it. It's great for your health. There is no problem with the sun crystals. Okay, here's the final screen if you want to take a screenshot and share it around and just help inform people, because a lot of people don't understand that these stages are actually very harmless. They're food grade. Nothing is left in the final sugar product. So there is no need to fear the processing. Process doesn't equal bad, okay? Especially when you're refining the product to be even better, as in cleaner because it's been through some cooking and everything. You want to take out those byproducts that have been created from the cooking process. You just want that pure sugar ingredient that you can use as a supplement, add to your cooking, all that wonderful stuff. All right, see you next video.